Welcome to the Let's Get Comfy podcast, brought to you by Comfort Measures Consulting, the official healthcare edutainment station, empowering listeners with the resources and insight to age comfortably. We are your station for laughter, peace, and joy, but most of all, comfort. I am your host and sole proprietor, Norman Harris, and today we have an amazing guest, a wonderful surprise. He is the founder of Spinks Law Firm, serving the greater Tampa Bay area, and has been practicing in the area of elder law, estate planning, and special needs for over 20 years. He is a board expert in elder law by the Florida Bar. Ed is a graduate of the University of South Florida State University College of Law. He is retired from the U.S. Marine Corps after serving 25 years, including tours of duty in Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and the Horn of Africa. Ed is an active member of the VFW and the Military Affairs Committee for the Florida Bar. Ed lives in Tampa with his wife, Tina, two wonderful children, Big William, 13, and Lily. He enjoys volunteering at the YMCA and coaching Buddy Baseball, a league for children with disability. He is on the St. Mark's Episcopal Church and recently completed a 4-year term as the president of Hillsborough County Superintendent Advisory Committee for Students with Special Needs. I present to you the only board certified male and elder law attorney in Hillsborough County, Mr. Ed Spinks. All right, welcome, Ed.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here today.
Yes, sir.
I really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Ed, I had to highlight you being the only male board certified attorney in elder law in Hillsborough County. It's a wonderful accomplishment. I was able to come to your celebration for that. I came at the end, right? So nobody probably remember seeing me there. But I did wanted to support. I came from Plant City. I said, Tina invited me. I need to meet Ed. And man, we had a wonderful conversation, first meeting, and you were just so open and welcome and transparent with me. And you took time to listen to me, listen to my vision. You shared insight for me, actually introduced me to Mr. Steve Hopper, right?
Yes.
A wonderful gentleman as well. But you also invited me to a networking group as well. So just from our first initial meeting and introduction, it's like you just said, you know what? I see something in this gentleman, and you gave me an opportunity. And everybody don't do that. Everybody don't open their arms to you and say, hey, I see what you're trying to do. I want to be a part of it, and I support you. Even if I haven't known you for 2 years, know you for 20 minutes. You give your heart. I can see your heart there, and it exemplifies in the family that you have, and Miss Tina as well, your wonderful wife. So just meeting her first and her introducing me to you, she said, you have to meet my husband. And I understand now why. So I'm so happy to have you a part of the show. Again, I want to repeat this. Mr. Ed Spinks is the only male board certified elder law attorney in Hillsborough County. He's the third one in Pasco County. That's a big accomplishment. Go Mels, right? Go Mels. So if you chime in here with me, man, just talk about why you gave me a chance.
I appreciate it. And it was great to meet you, and I understood your mission right away because we got a lot of overlap in what we do. Because what we do, we help families, help people. And a lot of times it's in a time of need, they're down and they can't find the next thing to do is, or they're depressed because of something's happening in the family, and we can help rise them up. We help those people up, and we can help those families. And I see you have it in your heart, in your background. It's what you've done, and that's what we try to do as well. And that's really where I find my motivation and my purpose in the things that we do.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So let's start with the thing that I'm highlighting, and I told you and wife I definitely want to place emphasis on is what does it mean to be board certified and elder law attorney? What does that mean?
Sure. And so in Florida, I have many attorneys in Florida. I wish I had the statistic here. I'd tell you the exact number, but there's a lot of attorneys in Florida. And so to be board certified, it means you've practiced in one particular area of the law. So you have a focus on the area of the law, and you've also had additional training. You've had a certain amount of continuing legal education. So you focused on the law for at least 5 years in your area. You've had a higher degree of training in that area than is required by the Florida bar. You also have to be verified or background checked by your peers and the Florida bar themselves. They take a certain number of recommendations and referrals, and then they check your background to make sure that you truly are practicing in that area and you got the expertise necessary. The third thing you have to do is take a written exam. Now, you would think, hey, if somebody's practicing in this area of law for 5 years, written exam would be a piece of cake. But the statistic I was given before I took the exam was only 25% of the exam takers actually pass this exam 25%. Each year. So it's a very low number, even though you got to be practicing in that area and be verified before you even get to sit for the exam. So I was fortunate enough to be in that 25% and get board certified in the area of elder law, what we do and what we love doing.
Yes, sir.
One other statistic that I do find interesting is out of all the attorneys in Florida, there's only 7% of the attorneys that are board certified in any certain area. Now, there are other certifications, be it personal injury, real estate, aviation, elder law, different areas consist of that. But only overall 7% of attorneys are board certified.
You have to come up with some sort of slogan, Ed. 7%er.
Yes.
You in the 7%er, Ed.
I get a little fast.
So if you would just describe your services at Spinks Law and just your different locations and where the community members can locate you.
Sure. We practice really in 3 areas: estate planning, elder law, and special needs. And so we break that down to kind of everybody understand. We do all the pre-planning, the things that everybody knows they need to get put in place but procrastinates to do so. That consists of estate planning with trusts and wills and powers of attorney and those things that you're taking a proactive approach for in your estate. And the elder law umbrella, that's normally helping families when they got a loved one going to assisted living, nursing home, or getting elderly, hence the name. So those services after somebody turns 65 deals with a lot of medical qualifications, sometimes some Medicare benefits as well. And the third is near and dear to our heart, so we separate it. It's a special needs planning. Because it really is an umbrella of the 2 earlier things, estate planning and elder law, but it's for those children with special needs. And I say children because that's normally what you're dealing with, those family raising children with special needs. You didn't mention our son William has Down syndrome, so personal to us. And so we help them with be it guardianship, planning with special needs trust, ABLE Act accounts, doing those things that will help be successful for the rest of their lives.
All right, good. So let's go back to the origins, right? The origins of Spinks Law Firm. How did you start the firm? And if you would describe the differences of when you first launched, right? And then of how you've grown now and where you are now.
Yeah, towards the end of my duty in the Marine Corps, I was stationed here at MacDill locally. So it gave me the opportunity to start my own firm. And so when I got to the point of having about 21 years in service, you can retire at 20 years. So I knew I wanted to start my own firm and try to do my own thing out there based on the experience that I'd previously had. I was fortunate enough that the Marine Corps needed additional help during that time, and this is probably about 08 or 09. So we were pretty tied up overseas. When I say we, I'm military in general. They needed somebody on staff at MacDill. So I was able to transfer to be a reservist and then work at MacDill as a reservist and then also be here in Tampa, not being on deployment, and able to open the law firm up. So, like most people, I think when they start the law firm, it's kind of do anything that comes in the door, right? They refer to it as door lock. Walks in the door, you'll represent them. So I had done estate planning and litigation before in the Marine Corps. So those were the main 2 things I focused on because I'd already had experience in that area. But anybody came in with those 2 things, I would take them.
So why the Marines? I hear these stories about how hard the Marines is and just how tough you have to be. And that's why I just didn't go in the military at all. So why you chose the hardest one to try to go, or is it the Navy SEALs? Which one do you think?
Well, I won't talk bad about the Navy SEALs, but I'll tell you the whole story since we got a few minutes here. Actually, it's true. The Marines are by far the toughest based on my experience, but I didn't start out there. So when I was 17, I graduated from high school. I first went into the Army. So I was a smoke operations specialist in the Army. So it's an interesting job where you make smoke screens that cover the battlefield. I don't think they have it anymore because the technology is advanced, so they don't need it. But when I first went in, that was our main job in 1985.
This is creating smoke.
Our job was to make smoke with these incredibly large generators, and we would burn 55-gallon drums of oil through this generator, but it made a tremendous amount of smoke. It would cover acres and acres.
Wow.
You could make miles of smoke with these things. And so I was in a smoke platoon, and so we had probably 30 of these generators or something. Yeah. Now, the downside of being a smoke generator operator, there's one place where you can make smoke screens. It's not sitting in an air-conditioned office. It's out in the woods. My first story, I was at Fort Riley, Kansas, out in the woods all the time.
I think my uncle was stationed there too.
It's been around a long time. You know, Custer was there, and they have General Custer's house there and a museum preserved to him and the cavalry from back in the day. So that place, Fort Riley, has been around a long time, but I tell you, we made smoke screens at that place. Yeah. So what triggered me to make the change is I got out of the active duty Army and was in the reserves, got recruited by the Marine Corps recruiter. And so those recruiters, got a way of getting you.
Yeah, they got you too.
And so he's like, hey, done that. How about stepping up a level now?
Right.
But it was good for me because one desirable thing about the Marine Corps at the time, because I was going to school at USF, was that they said if you do get accepted into law school, they'll divert the contract so you can be a Marine Corps lawyer. If not, you'll be a Marine Corps ground officer. So you kind of going to get to do whatever you want to do based on where you're at when I was finished with USF. So it's just the path that came to me was the best path for me at the time.
So you were able to go to law school without any debt?
Well, unfortunately, I was not, because they said they would allow you to wait and go on active duty for the Marine Corps.
Got it.
But they put you in the reserves during Marine Corps, during law school time. So basically what you had to do is pay for law school on your own. Then when you were done, then they would put you on active duty.
Gotcha. That would be smart.
They put you in the reserves, and I worked in recruiting command during law school to help.
Thanks. Okay, 3 qualities you think you gained from the U.S. Marine Corps. Top 3 qualities.
Yeah, really, the Marine Corps presents a lot of challenges, but probably the number one thing the Marine Corps does is help you focus and help you make decisions in stressful environments. Because you can imagine, anytime you're in that combat environment or going through an operation, they want you to be able to think decisively and make decisions when you're under a lot of stress. So that's one thing is focus, and that's one reason why the training is so tough, because if you can't be under that amount of stress and make a decision, you can't be a good leader, anywhere, and not just in the Marine Corps, but in the civilian world as well. Decision making under stress is the greatest challenge. And probably the other 2 things are just working well within an organization. You got to be part of a team. Marine Corps is built on teams, be it the fire team, the squad, the platoon, the company level, the battalion. Everything's a team and everything's focused on one mission. So everybody needs to know what the goal is and be working to accomplish that goal or that objective of the team. And then the third thing is, kind of ties into team, but I just think it's the camaraderie you get with your fellow Marines or your fellow soldiers, sailors out there, that you're working and part of that cohesive unit. And that's a really strong bond you develop. I kind of had about Fort Riley and doing some of that work out there, but I still stay in touch with some of those guys that I met, back in 1985, and they've gone, throughout the country and throughout the world, but we still stay in touch. We can kind of on things we did out there.
Good. Thank you for sharing that. So I need to hear stories. I love military stories. So if you give me a triumph story, right, and a tragic story.
Sure. I was in 25 years, so I got to run the spectrum of triumph and challenge stories. Probably the most difficult stories are, of course, the one stories, because it's not only the fact that you're under stress or have to go on deployment to certain places, to be away from your friends and family, but you do make these bonds that I talked about with these, members. And, as all know, during wartime, people die. And so you've got people that you have an immediate bond with or you've had a long connection with who end up passing as a result of the war. So, really take a toll on you. It's probably the worst thing about being in the military, and I guess the worst thing about anything is, your friends that you've made over these
During the military? Yeah?
Yes, during the military.
Wow, okay.
The hardest things to overcome, be it if you're in the same unit or if you read it in the paper or something down the road. It's just difficult to, process those emotions or, that.
Yeah.
But you also, significant triumphs, for me, everything in the military is built on being successful and having a triumph. Military schools, today you start boot camp, that, cycle and graduate, across that field and, be, whether it's in the Army, Marine Corps and get your Eagle Globe and Anchor. And so it goes on and on, Corps OCS is similar to the boot camp equivalent. So they have drill instructors there. It takes 12 weeks to get through. But at the end of that, you're commissioned as an officer in the Marine Corps. So you become a second lieutenant at that time and get the Eagle Globe and Anchor, which is symbolic of the Marine Corps. When you're truly a Marine, when you complete that process. And as you can imagine, at you for 12 weeks.
Yeah, that's what
under stress. And then the next school for all Marines is you have to go to something they call the basic school. But it's everybody goes to that, every Marine Corps officer, and that's 6 months where you learn all the Marine tactics, really learning your ship-to-shore movements and your strategy and tactics for combat operations, particularly operating from the ships and moving into the shore.
Got it. So when you first started, when do they cut your hair off?
Pretty much day one.
Day one?
Day one of any endeavor, they cut your hair off. Yeah,
How do you feel when they cut your hair off?
First went in 1985, my hair was long too. So probably long down to like my collar,
Like sunshine.
That time when you comb it back like this. And straight down the middle. I was fortunate enough that they were able to, spinning chair so they spin you around. You have about like a quarter of it shaved off.
Oh,
so you knew what it looked like. So that was a good time. But ever since that day, because just you got to keep it short. So as you can see, I've just had a habit. So that's the one time that they've shaved it off. It's been off ever since. So
got it.
I've grown it back.
So you started early on, years ago, serving, and you continued that through just as you've grown as an adult as well. But if you will, just talk about what makes you, more in just your endeavors in civic engagement, because you're involved in the community as well. So.
Yeah, be, and I'm fortunate, in being engaged with my children because they're still young. William's 13, Lily's 8. Mm-hmm. And so it opens the door because they both do athletics at the YMCA, which I've been involved in, be it coaching or supporting those athletes. I enjoy the coaching buddy baseball. It's a baseball league for children with disabilities, and they pair them up with a child that doesn't have any disabilities and just help play a baseball game. So games, because it's about 3 innings, we bat around each time, out there and have a good time playing, a great time in that season. And the league has really grown tremendously as far as kids go. Mm-hmm. So, and then of course, you mentioned that, I'm a vestry at St. Mark's Church, which is kind of like directors for the church. And I've been on there for, I think, 2 years now. And so we rotate, though. You can only be on there 3-year terms, and it comes off.
Okay. Also
had the ability to be elected president of the Superintendent Advisory Committee for children with special needs in Hillsborough County. This is all really linked through the kids. I got to meet these people, and I was in working with that group. So I attended as a member for a while, and then eventually was able to move up and be president, which just ended last year. So that was kind of a long term. It ended up being 4 years, but very enjoyable. I learned a lot about how the county government operates, and particularly the school system and the school board.
Good. Also, with that being stated, you have definitely different endeavors, but I noticed you indicated family is very important to you because a lot of your endeavors are connected to you spending time with your family. But what would you say outside of family, right, and your business, your law firm, what would you say your most cherished possession is?
It's tough. Of course, I got to take the easy answer. I don't want to dodge that. Of course, faith. We got to have our faith in the Lord and where Jesus puts us in our life. And we truly believe that. And I think every family has to deal with that.
No, I don't want to answer it. I want to know. What's your cherished possession in the house. You're not
like
touching
tangible.
both. What's your most your cherished possession that
You're not gonna let me get off on the easy end.
No,
This is what's gonna be important to me. But all of that is
it
important.
is.
All right.
No
God,
disrespect
family,
at all
Marine
with
Corps
that.
stuff, right?
Yes, sir.
So if I had to say something, you hit a nail on the head when you say, "Hey, something. What is in your house that the kids can't touch?"
Right.
And so I've got a pretty large collection of military coins.
Okay.
And if you're not familiar, a lot of times different units will have a coin made. That's either got a unit symbol or a Marine Corps symbol on it. And so traveling to these different places, I've had the opportunity to receive a lot of coins and give a lot of coins from the units that I've been in.
Okay.
And so the military coin collection, I would say, would be the one because it's really irreplaceable as well. These coins date back to, I got chemical ones from the Army because of smoke operations as part of the Chemical Corps. And then certainly more Marine Corps ones from traveling around, be it, from places where I was at in Africa and even Germany and Jordan, a lot of the Middle Eastern units that had those coins selected. So the coin collection would be the big thing.
It's interesting that you stated that. I just had the opportunity to travel with my wife to, I'm probably mispronouncing the name, Eglin, South Carolina, with her great aunt. I think the first time I'm meeting, but wonderful hospitality they showed us. But the house was like a historic, tour. Took us on like an hour tour of his home, and he had the coins and the different, because he was in the military as well. So I understand that now, being that you stated that. So
Right,
that's very
absolutely.
interesting. So going back to just learning about how you grew up and the things that you would develop. But if you just describe, neighborhood, how you grew up.
Yeah, my father was from Ohio, so I was born in Ohio and really raised in Ohio. My mother's family's from Polk County, so we spent a lot of time in Polk County, Florida, which is kind of our connection down here. And graduated from high school in Ohio, and that was a small industrial town. So they had a lot of factories. At one point when I was young. I'm sorry?
Siblings?
Yes, I got 3 brothers, and so we all grew up there at varying points. I'm the oldest, so my next youngest brother is a year and a half younger than me, but my youngest brother is 10 years younger from me. So you're going to the military when I was 17, so you can imagine he was only 7. So our overlap in life, great at that time.
My younger brother is 9 years younger than me, so yeah.
So yeah. Unfortunately, my father has passed, so I really don't have any relatives up north anymore. Everybody's down here.
Everybody down here in Florida. Okay. All right. Who's you would say most influential person in your early life?
Yeah, these things, your parents, of course, right? Because the parents are there, your parents are raising you, But you had a lot of, the thing about being from a small town, you get a lot of great friends. I was really active in probably the Boy Scouts at the time. So I think, friends I had there, really had good bonds formed. And, friends and their parents, you back on it. At the time, you think, these people are just jerks or your parents don't want to listen to you, you're a teenager. But you back on it now, you got great advice, my parents and their parents as well to help kind of in some of my decision making.
Got it. What kind of kid was you? Were you hard-headed? You listened? You were an example for your younger siblings? What did you say about yourself?
I was definitely not an example. I was probably just the average kid. I was kind of lazy in high school, so I didn't, a lot of work, a lot of effort. Okay. But now, on the other hand, my father at this time, when I was in high school, owned a pizza shop restaurant combination.
Oh, wow.
And so I worked in a pizza shop all the time.
You know how to make good pizzas now?
What's that?
You know how to make good pizzas?
I can make good homemade pizzas. Yeah. Like, I make it from the crust all the way up. Like, we did everything handmade back in the day. So it was an experience. But I put in a lot of work because I wanted to make the money, So I worked a lot in the pizza shop, a lot of pizza delivery. So it was a fun job for me. I enjoyed being out delivering pizzas to people and meeting everybody.
Have one of your pizzas, man.
One day we got to set that up where we go and do a little
one day. But as you grew older, go in the military, I have to connect back to the individual in which sort of to you, which is your wife, Miss Tina Spinks. So want to go to how do you all met and how you all formed this power couple, right?
Yeah, she likes to downplay it, but to me, it was a complete miracle because I met her after I'd already done a ton of traveling in the military. I had even came back from Africa at the time.
Africa, yeah.
So I'm back at MacDill, right, working. We are in Clearwater, or Pinellas County, kind of northern Clearwater. And we're there at two separate events, right? She's there with some work event, I believe, and I'm with some other people at this restaurant.
Okay.
And so we meet each other just in the overlap of people, because some people were from one event, some people were from the other. We set up a date, of course. Hey, let's get together one-on-one, change numbers. And
you try to skate over that. You hollered at them.
yes.
You hollered at them. Yeah, at the event.
Yes.
That's when you met her. You saw what intrigued you about her to go over there and introduce yourself, Mr. Spinks?
Well, she's very beautiful. You met her, so see, naturally her beauty is the first thing.
I wasn't gonna let you skate over there like this. Ran into her. Y'all was like, oh, here you go. No,
of course, her natural beauty is the first thing. But then, as we talked on the phone, background of herself, had a master's degree in public health administration, and she's traveled all over the country as well. She's went to school in Texas and worked in New Mexico. She's originally from Wisconsin, a graduate from University of Wisconsin. She worked in Jacksonville, and at the time lived in Clearwater. So we had a great diverse background, and we really kind of hit off just have very similar backgrounds, and
had a lot in common. Yeah.
Yes, a lot in common. And she works in that business where she's working in the healthcare fields in various agencies. And so a lot of that overlap too, where, like you and I were attracted naturally. I think there is some attraction to that. People that are in these fields where they help other people are attracted to each other. And so they kind of can, and they have a natural connection there. I do think that's an important connection that we develop, people that work in our industry. That a lot of times people not in our industry don't understand, because they're not in the people helping business. Really help people with what we do. So yeah, we started having some one-on-one conversations, but I'll digress on this just short story if you allow me to.
Yes, sir.
In the military at the time, right, stationed at MacDill.
Okay.
I had just came back, and when I say just, probably 5 years ago at that time, I came back from Hawaii. And so they said they needed somebody to go out and work in Hawaii. Now, one thing we didn't talk about, I also did similar work in Hawaii for the military, where I did legal assistance, providing estate planning and that type of stuff for members of the military and their families. So doing that, I found it advantageous to get admitted to the Hawaii bar. So I took the Hawaii bar exam when I was out there and got admitted to Hawaii. So I'm admitted to both states, Florida first and then Hawaii second. And so being admitted to Hawaii, I got contacted by the Marines out in Hawaii and said, hey, we need somebody out here to come back out. And so I told him, I said, okay, hey, great fit. I'm licensed in Hawaii. I'm really wrapping up my time at MacDill. This is before I started the practice or anything. And I'd be happy to come back out there. Who can't, not go to Hawaii, right? It's a beautiful place as well. During this time is when I met Tina, though. And so I told her, I said, hey, I may have to move to Hawaii, because I've already basically told him I would. And now one thing, the way you move in the military is you get orders to someplace. They send you a piece of paper, it's called an order. You're ordered to report in Hawaii on such and such a date. That means, hey, you got to go and you got to be there. But that's what really does it. I never got orders for Hawaii. Never got them. And because I met Tina, I didn't really call and hey, where are my orders? Where are my orders? I was just okay, well, they didn't send them. They must not need me. So I just stayed at MacDill. But after I retired, one thing I saw in my paperwork when they were looking at my administration file, those orders were in my paperwork. Sitting in my paperwork, I just never received them.
Wow.
Amazing. I mean, it is amazing.
That's fate,
meant to be, right there.
Yeah, meant to be.
Absolutely.
That's a good story.
I think Tina doesn't believe that story to this day, but you go back and look at my Marine Corps records, you'll see orders to Hawaii that were never given to me in, whatever year it was, 2005 or, before, it must have been later than that. It must have been 2007 when I met Tina.
Right.
It was all at that same time. I mean, amazing.
Congratulations to you both. So what do you say is the best gift you've given your wife? Other than yourself.
Besides the children, maybe?
Yeah, aside from the children. What would you say the best gift you've given?
Oh, we've given each other a lot of gifts over the years. I'll tell you the gift that she loves the most. Yeah. So
that's what matters.
We were married in February. And so our anniversary is every February. But we try to follow the traditional. You go online, you can look. There's a traditional gift. The first one might be paper. The second year is wood or something, right? And so one year was glass, I believe. And so it might have been year 7, year 6, in that time frame. So it's been a little while, right?
Mhm.
And so going online, I'm like, hey, I'm going to be creative. And I got this glass rose made with this beautiful vase and this base for it, all glass. Great idea. So I thought, hey, I'm going to even step it up and I'll get it engraved,
Mhm.
Tina and Ed, eighth wedding anniversary or whatever it is, and then put the year down below it.
Mhm.
You know what? I got the year wrong.
Got a year.
That's not the right year.
Yeah. And you know they're gonna point out the one negative out of all not oh, this is beautiful. Nope. They're gonna see instantly your
She
mistake.
still has it up in our bedroom today. I said, let me send it back. Let me send it. She said, no. I'm going to keep that one because that way we can tell this story.
Yeah,
we still have this in our bedroom today. So, hey, by far, that's the one that we talk about the most. We talk about gifts to each other. So
That's
it's just
good.
funny. Only off 1 year, mind you.
Right, they can't, they need their time away. I like that you just explained to me because this is actually a benefit as well to the community to have a family-oriented practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
That have that connection and dynamics of someone of yourself that's gauging your community, but also place value on family as well, right? You're not just all about self and promoting yourself. So just explain to listeners just the working dynamics of how yourself and Tina, how you all operate.
Yeah, and we're really fortunate to be able to work together because, like I said, Tina's worked in a variety of healthcare environments, be it a big hospital environment, home healthcare, hospice, outreach. She's been in a wide range of fields, and like I said, she's got a great background in that area. And really, it was around the COVID time. It was unfortunate on one hand, but a blessing on the other that she needed a surgery, and so she was going to have to be off work for 6 weeks for recovery after the surgery. But I had talked to her before. It'd be great if we could work together. And during that time, we made the decision, since she was out of work and taking a step away anyway, we're like, hey, what about doing something the following year, putting the plan together for real? And it works out great. I'm not saying that we couldn't spend all our time in an office together 24 hours a day with my lovely wife, but we all know how that is, right? Anybody you work with, if you're in close quarters all the time. But what we really focus on is I focus more on the inner office type stuff. People that have the ability to come in, meet with me face to face and get estate planning done. But there's so many of our people that need help in assisted living. They're in nursing homes. They can't get out of their home. They're bedbound. The Tina fills that gap, and she's able to go out there and meet with them and bring back their needs and talk to me about, hey, this person needs this kind of planning or that kind of planning. And then I'm able to do the planning and make it work for them. And then she's able to fill that gap of being out there, seeing them face to face in their assisted living, in their nursing home, in their home. And she is phenomenal at seeing that, being able to identify their needs and help connect them with resources. If it's not us, helping them connect with that hospice, that home care, those other agencies that's going to lift them up.
Good. Thank you. That definitely works. That's a good piece there. And sort of makes you all just prepped for it to being the go-to for estate planning. But let me ask you this: why is it so important for individuals to have estate planning in place? Why is there a key, and what are the key components of that?
Sure, and estate planning is essential in the day-to-day lives because it's like having a plan for everything in your life. If you don't have a plan, if you fail to plan, somebody else is going to make that decision. Tina loves to say everyone has an estate plan. If you do nothing, that's your plan. You're going to let the judge or the state of Florida come in and dictate how your life's going to go. They're going to dictate who's going to make financial decisions, healthcare decisions, and manage your assets for you. Somebody's going to do that. It's either going to be the judge in a guardianship or probate hearing, or it's going to be you if you get out in front of it and build a plan that's in your best interest and in your family's best interest.
Right.
Everybody has a plan. It's just, is it going to be your plan or is it going to be the government's plan?
So I'm in this process now. Actually, I was speaking to Tina about even with my parents setting up an introductory call, virtual call with you all as well. So with the trust, all right, how can trust be utilized in estate planning? And what
Sure.
are their benefits?
And so when we talk about trust in estate planning, we're taking a little bit more of a deep dive into who would be getting that. So somebody looking for long-term planning, what a trust does, it protects your assets in the event that you're incapacitated and also helps avoid probate for those beneficiaries of your trust. So during your lifetime, you would control the assets that are held in trust for your own benefit or for your spouse's benefit if it's a joint trust. Now, if you become incapacitated, you can name a successor trustee, somebody step in and manage that, which is a great idea because you don't want the government or somebody third party appointed for that.
Right.
So it gives you these advantages as well as helps avoid the probate process, which can take anywhere typically from 6 months to a year to wrap up your estate. It allows your loved ones to have access to those assets that they inherit much quicker than it typically would.
Is there any misconceptions around estate planning at all? Any stigmas or?
The biggest misconception I see right now in estate planning is online documentation or non-attorney planning. Because there's a difference between estate planning and having a will or having a power of attorney. Estate planning, what we do, encompasses everything. We make the estate plan specific to you because your needs are going to be different than my needs.
Right.
Your parents' needs are going to be different than my parents' needs. You know, everybody needs individualized, but the advertising and things you'll see on the internet today will tend to believe, hey, download this will document, fill it in yourself, you have a will in place.
Yep.
While it's true, you may be able to do that, but the part of the planning aspect is what's that going to do for you? Why have that? How's it going to help you reach your goal? You know, how's it going to leave your legacy? And that's what estate planning attorneys can do for you that you don't get from these document automation sources.
Got it. So based on your experience, and you've been in the industry for quite some time now, are people prepared for their most vulnerable state? Meaning when they're at that state where they're no longer able, as there's a challenge to care for themselves, and they need assistance from either healthcare provider or a loved one, or even placement in a assisted living facility. What do you say? What's your opinion on that?
And I'll just tell you what the statistics are, because you do research on this, and the senior care statistic right now says that if over 65, 70% of people are going to need some level of long-term care, be it rehabilitation, assisted living, or skilled living, nursing home care. And yet they say that less than 70% of them have a plan in place to document that. And that's what I'm talking about, getting that plan in place early. How are you going to pay for these things during your life? Who's going to be able to make these decisions for you? That's where these powers of attorney come in. Long-term care insurance is an important component. Life insurance. All these things work together. We can do one aspect of it, but there's many aspects that need to be considered, and those all things overlap and work in conjunction.
So you're saying 70% of individuals over the age of 65
do not have a proper plan. So only 30% of the people over 65 have the necessary planning in place.
Wow, and that's why we do what we do, bringing that awareness to those things. Because one, I want to be prepared as I age as well, but I look at generation from experience in my family, immediate family, also of not being prepared as well. So I want to change that. But obviously, I'm in that 70% too. So, and my family is, but that's why we're bringing awareness to that as well. So thank you for sharing. That's one great statistics to share as well.
And that's one thing we try to do. We're constantly out there educating. That's what Tina or I, we try to do a large education ceremony or session once a month to a mass group, but also be out there giving even short talks on, hey, what is a power of attorney? I think we got one called the power of attorney. So letting everybody know, hey, this is what a power of attorney is designed to do. This is a situation when you may need it. It's my opinion that everybody should have these powers of attorney put in place. But it's an educational piece. You got to know why. What difference does that make? And so spreading that educational venue is something really important to us that we try to do.
Right. So with the statistic of being 70% of people being unprepared, does those individuals sort of, and I know every case is different, but a lot of those family members or individuals have to find out about Medicaid planning then. Is that a result of sometimes in some form not being prepared?
Yes, in Medicaid qualification, we do a large amount of it because it can be the result of being not prepared, or it can be the result of being prepared and knowing that that's a benefit available.
Got it.
So many people I talk to have a loved one going into a long-term nursing home, and they don't realize Medicare doesn't just pay that 100%. It starts out, because it's it starts out paying 100%, but then it diminishes down to 80%, and then by the time you reach 90 days, it's paying zero. So you better have a way to pay, and that cost right now is about $10,000 a month.
Yes, sir.
So we can help them a lot of times, though, and explain, hey, there's a supplemental program from Medicaid that helps cover that. So it can help them. And if they don't have a plan in place, fortunately, that's a stopgap.
Right.
But you have to have some minimum plan in place, because you still got to apply and you got to qualify. So that's where these other things come in importance. You got to have that stuff in place, or you can't even qualify.
But even knowing those options and having those conversations sooner,
yes,
right, is the good thing, is the key that we want to trigger in individuals as they listen to us just speaking on it regarding now.
Yes.
Right. Make the phone call, right? The time that you're laying in bed on your phone, on Facebook, or looking at talk on your lunch break, give a call to Spinks Law Firm. Give a call just to Elder Law Attorney. Just say, hey, I'd like to set up just a info call, right? Just to consult, right? I have my mom. She's 75 years old. I just want to be able to provide information to her.
And that's why we always offer complimentary consultations, because I feel that's so important to get that initial call in and just hear about, hey, what's the options out there?
Yes.
So you're aware of them, and we're spreading that education to folks and their families.
Yes, sir. So in regards to being prepared, how can individuals, or when you have a family member coming in to you and see you, for instance, speak to about the conversation you have with them about protecting their assets, right, for long-term care costs?
And so the first question I always ask every family is, what is your goal? Why are we here? What's the goal? Because 90% of the time, I can get them to the goal, but I need to know what the goal is, and they need to know what the goal is. Sometimes they don't really know. They're not clear on what the goal is. And so I think that's a good place to start any conversation when you're talking about long-term planning. What is your goal? Is it to take the stress off your kids of going through probate? Is it to prevent fighting and make it clearly defined who's going to inherit what? Is it to take care of that child with special needs and make sure when you're no longer there to do it, there's a plan in place to take care of him or her? If we get to that goal first and then work backwards, we can create a great plan to reach the goal. So I think it's important to know what your goal is, and then we can develop a plan to get there.
So I do want to focus on a topic that based on just my history, where I come from, and the education that I had, the one theme that I always used to hear for some of my elder adults or loved ones, family members, was, well, I have a living will. So if you just explain to listeners what's an established living will, but what results from having the living will once that loved one passes away, and then they say, I want you to be the beneficiary of my assets. What's that process like when they're trying to find out more about that, the probate process?
Well, and that's exactly it. And we do probate. It's a pretty large share of our business as well. And so it really takes having that conversation with families. You know, probate to wrap up an estate is going to be 6 months to a year. The standard rates for probate in Florida, now this is statutory rates, is $3,000 plus 3% of the assets. So it can be very costly to go into probate.
I want to catch that point there. So if I have a loved one, let's say they pass away, right, and they say, I want to leave all of my property, assets, financial funds to Norman, right? What would be Norman's process? Because I'm in the living will, right? That's the only thing they have. They don't have a trust established, anything. They just have a will.
Yes.
Walk me through that.
And so one thing, Norman, let's make sure we clear up the language, because there's a misconception in Florida particularly. We got living wills and we got last will and testament.
Oh,
two different things. Unfortunately, they're very similar in names. We often confuse those words. A living will is limited to your last wishes. You know, do you want to be kept alive on life support if you're in a permanent vegetative state with no chance of recovery, or do you want to be allowed to die naturally? That's usually the living will. The last will and testament is that plan that says, when I pass, I want Norman to be in charge of gathering all my assets and distributing all my assets to him. And so that last will and testament can clearly say that. But one misconception in Florida is they don't realize wills have to go through probate court. So if there's a will and I want to leave everything to you, I can put that in there and I can make you in charge, but there's still the court process. You got to file the original will in court, and then you normally need to hire an attorney because of the process to get through that procedure to get the judge to sign off and say, you are the personal representative and you may distribute the assets. Of course, after you pay the attorneys and the court and other people along the way. So that sometimes we're trying to avoid that process. And some people are fine with it. But it's getting that put in place, as long as their loved ones will be taken care of, even if there's some court involved, they don't have a problem with it. So it's individualized how they want it to go.
Right. My next question to you is, if you could explain how families can navigate the complexity of end-of-life planning, and just including in living wills and advance directive process. Just your advice. I know there's no perfect situation, but if you were just advising me, just normal, I'm 36 now, just turned 36 years old. What would be, if I come into your office, what would you advise me? One, I know you have to know what I want, right? Obviously, I want to have money. I don't want to be broke. And I want to be able to have care being provided to me. Those are the two essential things for sure.
And that's a lot of times exactly it. We talk about the goals, and then we talk about different options to get there. And there's a number of ways to do that. Now, most people, like I talked to before, we talk about a living estate plan. And so we use a triangle to describe the living estate plan. And that's somebody, if you're incapacitated, to make financial decisions, somebody to make medical decisions, and somebody to maintain your life, or have that living will in place that says under the conditions you would want to be allowed to die naturally and not kept alive on life support. Because all these things impact you during your life. If you're incapacitated during a period of time, COVID was a great example because you got many individuals who were younger, but they would be in the hospital on a respirator. It could be 30, 60, 90 days. So they're going to live, they're going to make it. But can you imagine not paying your bills for 30, 60, or 90 days, or not taking care of the things that you do every day for that time period? So having that loved one designated to be able to do that on your behalf, so when you do recover, you come right back to your house isn't foreclosed on, your electricity's still on, everything's been going in the regular course of events because you did this pre-planning. So that living planning, can be just as important as the end-of-life planning.
That is true. That's very good information. What resources and tools do you recommend for families beginning the estate planning or elder law process? So if they're going through the process, what resources and tools they should start reading or following just to learn more information about it? Of course, they can always contact you all, but what are some things before they can, if they don't want to take that step of setting up a meeting and shit?
Exactly. That's my number one thing. Hey, call me. I think no, just being familiar with the terms of art. Understanding when we're talking about estate planning, what that consists of. Why is a trust different from a will? At least in the big picture, I think those are things that are very helpful for everybody to know. But one thing I want to share is we got a problem nowadays with the internet because law is very state specific, especially when we're talking about elder law. Very state specific, and particularly when we're talking about real estate. Homestead laws in Florida are unique from any other state. So understanding how the homestead law applies, because it's normally everyone's largest asset. I hear many, many times that, I don't want to get Medicaid coverage for long-term care because we don't want to lien on the house. We don't want the government to take the house when the claimant dies. But in Florida, that's not a problem. Homestead's going to protect that person.
Right.
But in New York, Connecticut, some of these up north states, they will get a claim or a lien on their house. And so it makes sense to be concerned about. So while they're looking at information, it's good to know, I think, general areas of information, but make sure you talk to your attorney about how that works for you in your particular state. Because that's the one thing I see misinformation bleeding in from people who well-meaningly do research, but they're getting it from other states. It does not apply the same in Florida.
Got it. So if you were to say, just if you're in the elevator and you were just speaking to someone and they found out what you do, they say, "Oh, you're Ed. Okay, I heard about you. You're a law attorney." If you were to say, encourage them or to actually give you a call, what would you state to them right now?
Yeah, and I always explain it as, hey, we're in the business of helping people with three things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Estate planning, elder law, and special needs. And just like I said when we first came on, hey, those are the three things we do. We do the estate planning, the early on planning for people, be it for their loved ones, involving wills, trust, anything like that. We do the elder law, which typically encompasses those over 65, still the same wills and trust, but now we've got a mindset of looking out for long-term care needs as well. And of course, those kids with special needs are near and dear to us.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about guardianship, special needs trust, ABLE Act accounts, all those things they need to help them throughout their life.
Thank you, sir. So, beautiful, Ed. Now, before we wrap up, I always have to end each show with the game. So let's the games begin. All right. This game here, and I played this with every guest that we're going to have on the show. It's called 7 Versions of Me. And you get 7 seconds to provide your response. All right. So, first version, Ed as a husband.
Good, but not great. You heard my story about the anniversary gift.
Yes, sir. Okay. As a father.
Also good, but not great. No, I try to do the best I can for the kids, but I love them.
Ed as a sibling.
Hey, probably not even good there. I'll apologize now to my brothers. Probably wasn't the nicest brother in the world, but hey, I made them a lot tougher, so they got me for that.
All right, Ed as a son.
Again, probably pretty decent, though, because I worked hard at the restaurant. Probably the hardest working guy at the restaurant.
I have hard work out at the restaurant. All right. Ed as an entrepreneur.
Probably good, but not great. I think we've really found the niche. I know we didn't talk about too much how we went from just helping everybody to focusing on the elder law, but it's really my passion. Genuinely concerned about helping people and them the best quality of life.
Thank you. Ed as a friend.
Wants to be a good friend, right? So we hope we can help our friends as much as we possibly can, and I do the same. I do keep in touch with guys. Wish I could talk to them more from the old days, early military days, but I do stay in touch at least.
Stay busy, and Ed impact on his community.
And that's where one thing I do the best that I can do, and that's all I think anybody can ask on impact in the community, in these civic organizations, participating churches, anything we can do, especially with the kids, is so easy. Every place needs volunteers, so I think everybody should be out there and as much as they can, or as much as their talents allow them to.
Okay, thank you for so that's the 7 versions of Ed. So second game here is That's My Answer. This particular game, you get 5 seconds to respond. It's a little weird, just like those questionnaires that I sent you, those questions there. So what's your favorite genre of music?
Oh, that's a tough one. This is everything. I'm going to say, how would you say, like
rock, okay.
Rockish type stuff.
All right, favorite song?
Oh, man, what have we been listening to all the time? I listen to one song every day. It's like a strange song.
Okay. You remember who it's by?
It's by somebody who I was surprised was still alive even. It's like Conway Twitty or somebody like that.
Yeah.
Well, my son's been playing it every day. Honky Tonk Bar is what it's called.
Okay,
he's been playing this thing all the time. It's kind of a crazy song we normally would listen to. I don't even know how he found it. But he plays this thing over and over. It's kind of a funny song.
All right, chicken or seafood? All right. Justin Timberlake or Usher?
Oh, that's a tough one for me.
That's a double.
Justin Timberlake.
All right. Favorite football player?
Ooh, a tough one too. I'd have to say Bradley.
Bradley? Okay. The 5 shots of whiskey or 3 Long Islands?
Ooh, enough one, man. I got good stories. If I have more than 5 seconds, I can tell you some stories about both of those things. I would have to go with the whiskey, though.
The whiskey, all right. Dancing or singing?
Oh, that was a tough one. It all depends if it's before or 5 shots of whiskey. I would say dancing.
All right. Who's the better actress, Sandra Bullock or Julia Roberts?
No, Sandra Bullock.
Me too. I was going to say that too. All right. And you get offended here now, Tim. Who would you date, Meg Ryan, all right, or Sandra Bullock?
Oh, that's a tough one too.
It's a tough one.
I'm going to go with Sandra Bullock.
Bullock again. All right. So what's the most hilarious movie that you secretly love? hilarious movie that you
Yes,
see.
yeah. Thing.
I
I watch a lot of stupid movies. So
Me too.
That's
I'll help you out.
okay.
Mine is a Step Brothers.
Oh, that's a good
That's
one.
a
Yes,
good movie,
yeah.
man. I love Step Brothers.
That's a good one. I'm trying to think of just what I've seen. Did watch The Meg the other day, which was kind of not really. Oh, you know what I like? It's funny. I watch it all the time. Central.
I never heard of it.
It's got The Rock in it, and
I've seen that. I've seen that. Yes, I've seen that. All right. One food or dish you would eat every day. Well, from where?
I'd kill that one. It doesn't matter to me. Hey, man, I'm a
Anywhere?
pizza connoisseur.
Wow, okay.
I'll eat it from the box. I will eat it at the restaurant. I'll eat it at some high-end Italian place. I will make my own.
Okay. You could snoop through one person's private life. Who would it be?
Ooh, good question too.
One person. You
Your dad or we anybody? Oh, you know, I found interesting. Now this is kind of like stoic, but Norman Schwarzkopf, to see how the development of the Gulf War was the first time. That would be like 91, how he developed in that, because he was a key figure in that war.
Yeah, it's probably like, I think 3 years old.
Well, I got a couple of years on it.
All right. Greatest fear that you're ashamed of?
Greatest fear that I'm ashamed of. Man, I've got a lot of fears that I'm ashamed of, so I got to pick one. I'm kidding.
I got a lot of them. I can name a lot of them for you.
Yeah, it's probably just, the greatest thing. I don't know if you'd be ashamed of, but it's just the fear of failure, and not being able to accomplish whatever that objective is, being able to do that, or being there for your kids or something that you start out and you can't do it.
So you're not scared of giraffes, or what about
I'm pretty good with giraffes.
Yeah, I said giraffe, hippopotamuses. Gotcha. I guess apparently I'm just a scared chicken. And last one,
I was in the military 25 years. I had to overcome a lot of these things in life.
The last one, this is a movie: Saving Private Ryan or Braveheart.
Oh, Saving Private Ryan.
Braveheart for me. Mel Gibson and Braveheart. You gotta be kidding.
Hey, I like them both, but we're current militaristic.
I got you. So, yes, but
I can
yeah, understood. Mr. Spinks, sir. So happy you joined the Let's Get Comfy podcast. Comfy listeners, I hope you enjoyed this wonderful conversation with Mr. Ed Spinks, sharing his life story from the military, his family, being a power couple, what he provides to the community, and his dedication to serving for many years. And it didn't start just now. It started back from just as a youth. So I'm glad that he given me the opportunity to have the conversation today on a Sunday. We're here with my family. So thank you for watching. Let's Get Comfy podcast. Like, comment, and subscribe. Tune in next episode. Peace.